Hey, Bucks County, it's Martha coming to you again, and I just returned from a long, successful trip from Pennsylvania to Vegas, and then to San Francisco, and then to back home. I fortunately was able to do Duke and the Vegas trip in the Wild Wild West. It was a fantastic experience. But today, I'm bringing you somebody so cool. He's a Bucks County chef here. His name is Ed Schreiber, actually known as Chez Eddie. And Mr. Eddie is going to be on the podcast with us today. And he's going to be talking about all kinds of things that are going on with the restaurant industry, being a chef, and how he's dealing with this pandemic situation. As we well know, the restaurant industry has taken a huge hit, along with transportation, and that's a whole nother subject. But I'm looking forward to having him on board. I'm playing one of his favorite tunes here of Bob Dylan, and I really would love you to just take a listen for a little bit while getting ready to make this call into Chez Eddie. He'll have all kinds of links in the podcast as well as the YouTube podcast, so everybody can contact him and contribute any way possible to everything, to all the causes that he's helping with. So we will go ahead and listen to Bob Dylan for a little bit, and then we will be calling in to Ed. Everyone have a great weekend, and we will be talking in a few minutes.
And he just smoked my eyelids and punched my cigarette. Oh, mama, can this really be the end? To be stuck inside a mobile with the Memphis Blues again. Grandpa died last week, and now he's buried in the rocks. But everybody still talks about how badly they were shot. But me, I expected it to happen. I knew he'd lost control when I speed-built a fire on Main Street and shot it full of holes. Oh, mama, can this really be the end?
Okay, let's try again.
Hello.
Oh, there he is. Second time's a charm. So, Ed, this is Bucks County Bytes. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I tried to call in for our listeners, and first time didn't succeed. So, hey, I figured second time you're probably out cutting the grass or something today.
Well, I'm drinking an espresso and folding sheets, but
is that what you're doing? Okay. You never know in this pandemic we're going through. You never know what people are doing at home. So
you do not.
No. So anyway, this is Bucks County. I'm Martha, and I'm grateful. I'm so happy that you were able to do this interview, and I can have you on my show, and for all these listeners out there, and they're gonna get to hear your story and what's going on. So I would really like you to give me an intro of yourself, and
sure,
that would be fantastic. Start. How's that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So my name is Ed. I've been a chef for quite a while, over 30 years.
Oh my goodness, 30 years.
Yeah,
Wow.
I just passed a milestone. I was baking bagels when I was 15, and so after that it was no turning back, and so you could do the math.
Was that a family thing? Has that been in your family a long time? Cooking, baking, chef?
Well, my grandfather was a baker and a bread jobber. That was a long time ago. I never even met him. My father sold snack foods, but food was always a thing, growing up. I mean, my parents were, let's say they enjoyed food, and we would go out to eat. My father and I had an arrangement that, if you don't like it, I'll eat it. So I could order pretty much whatever I wanted.
That's fantastic.
He was a big guy, but I liked virtually everything. He had many years eating asparagus stems. I didn't seem to like the stems, but other than that, he got off okay.
So it's in the family. Okay.
Yes,
it is.
It
okay.
is.
All right. Good.
So yeah, I grew up in the Northeast. Started cooking, like I say, early on, and then in the mid '90s, I decided I wanted to sort of reinvigorate things, and I moved to Northern California, um,
Wow.
where I was a chef at a very
Big move.
well-known restaurant of its time called the Lark Creek Inn. One of the first farm to table, which that expression is used so much now,
Yeah,
but
when did that begin? What year is that? You're going back into those days when that really was the big thing in California. It started.
in Northern California, Brad Ogden and of course Alice Waters, which anybody who knows and even a little bit about food, she's pretty well known, just started to re-examine the just the quality of local food. I mean, it's easy to do in Northern California. The farmers markets there are just works of art, literally.
And
And
around the
so
year too, where it's different here.
exactly right. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, we are in the middle of the 4 weeks of great produce in Pennsylvania and New
Yes.
Jersey.
And there
You
it's
know,
year rounds.
yeah, and so the inspiration is just
Oh yeah.
constant. But
Yeah. Well, that's
yeah,
great.
so they were doing that. That was like in the late '90s. I mean, I think there's always been local places, but that's when it became the thing. I mean, people were going to restaurants and spending $35 for a plate of pot roast. You know what I mean? But it was pot roast
That was
from
back. Yeah.
grass-fed beef and organic carrots and locally sourced
That's
onions.
where it started. Yeah. That's right. It's been going on for a while now, but yeah, it was a big thing back in California in its time, and now it's huge. Okay.
It is.
Yeah, it's good. So you were involved with that back in California.
Yeah, I mean that's where my first sort of exposure to it, was I was my first exposure to it, and then that kind of had driven the focus of my food. I think food should, be self-explanatory. And if
Mm-hmm.
you use the best possible ingredients, then really it's just a matter of a little bit of salt, seasoning, and spice, and it's all ready to go. It speaks for itself, so to speak, and I brought that back here. I moved back here with my wife. It's been about 4.5 years, I'm just trying to stay alive. Like
Right.
everybody else. It
Yeah,
was
just like everybody
prior to
else.
February. I had a good job. We were doing very well. We went to Israel to see family and had this amazing culinary journey
Oh
there.
my
And then
gosh, so you were really busy right before this pandemic hit then.
we landed in JFK on March 11th.
Oh
And
my, so you came in right at when it all
the
started to.
day. The
Yes,
next
it
day, we
is.
would have still been in JFK. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I guess you're lucky to get back home.
We were. We were redirected to
Oh,
JFK from Newark, and I was like, as long as we're there, and we got. Yeah, I mean, literally, the country went on
what
lockdown
did
the
you
next day.
see when you were over there? What was going on there at that time? You knew what was happening, but
So it was interesting, and not to make super light of it, but people were almost calling it Corona tourism, in potentially a positive way, in that there was no crowds, right? Because people had already started to be wary, and
yeah.
Israel, specifically the old city. I mean, you're neck and neck with people. I mean,
So
and
they were aware of it, and they
they
crowds
were.
weren't
They were.
there.
People weren't wearing masks yet, as a
Mm-hmm.
rule, but people were wearing them as, sort of something they wanted to
Mm-hmm.
do. And Israel's a pretty solid country, as far as supporting one
Oh
another. My
yes,
cousin,
yes it
who I was
is.
visiting, her son had a medical condition, so we were certainly way
Oh,
more
you were
careful
really
of
careful.
where. Yeah, don't touch railings. That was
Mm-hmm.
like the hardest thing for me not to do, was
That
touch a
was the
railing.
last thing I remember. I was in an airport in March. It was my last flight, the last trip I did. I remember going into Newark, and I didn't want to touch anything. Like
Right.
I'm trying not to touch anything. I'm like, I don't know what's going on, but people weren't wearing masks. I mean, I saw people wearing gloves. It really hadn't hit home yet. Not yet. Not hard.
And honestly, I think, I guess that's part of the subject of today. I
Mm-hmm.
still think that the final, the other shoe has yet to be dropped. And as hard as it was, I say quote unquote hard. I mean, we had a relatively smooth situation. My wife, was immediately able to start working from home.
Well, what
I
is
was
your
forced.
wife? So what does she do that she was able to still work? She still could work from home.
She's an artistic director, designer for actually an insurance brokerage. She
Okay, so
designs all of their
that makes sense.
their,
She could
their
work from
artwork,
home. Yeah,
their media, their
right.
kind of thing. And
So
so
she still is able to keep working.
she will be. She was, a matter of fact, she was just told she will never have to go back to the
Oh, that's
office.
that's a
And
good
so,
thing in a way, and it's very
you know, I- you
strange,
know,
but
it's a good thing for everybody. I guess the next thing is, there's going to be some sort of a lobby for
hmm
some sort of tax reform, and that, now the company doesn't have to buy electricity or print
oh
cartridges or
yeah, there's a lot of
anything
things they
else.
don't have to spend on.
And now we do, but
Yeah,
again, the
but
commute of driving down the blue route,
oh yeah,
the
that
fact that you're in
there's
an,
savings involved
yeah,
here. I mean, you think about the savings and money's not being spent at the same time. It's like, but there's a lot of businesses like your business and my business that I had. We lost our business. I mean, the restaurant business took a huge hit and hard, and there's losses of restaurants all across the country. It's horrible.
yeah. I mean, I don't think people really think about it that much, or they think, they're selling to go food, but I mean, there's
You
whole
can't make the
segments
bills with selling. It's
you can't,
you're
and,
missing
and
a
there's
part.
and even if you try to do that, there are whole segments of food service establishments that are never coming back. I mean, the diners in Center City that lived, literally, the bread and butter, pun completely intended,
Yeah,
was office workers, breakfast and lunch, and they're never coming back. And
yeah.
and diners, probably one of the greatest things about the East Coast, as far as I'm concerned, were just a mainstay. I mean, these aren't just fly by night businesses. Some of these are businesses that have been there for, there's a diner, right? Oh man, the name, suddenly I forget the name of it. That's going out of business. That's been there. I remember going there, after
How long they've been
going to
there?
the bank or the tower, out of business because they just
Uh,
can't. You can't keep up. I mean, the margins on those kind of businesses specifically are so small, and being open 24 hours
they
is,
need the people. They need that
yeah,
24/7 business. They
and,
serving
and that's
around the
gone.
clock, and it's
It's
gone
gone.
because the workers aren't there. The businesses aren't there. They're not coming in, and you
Right.
can't. I mean, takeout can only you can only do so much. You still got to pay your electric bill. You still got to pay the rent. You still got to pay all these bills, and those businesses they can't sustain it. And what happens this fall, Ed, when you can't seat people outside, and even if they're at 25% inside, that's not going to cut it. It's you can't. How are you can't survive on 25% business, and then winter comes, you can't have them sitting outside, right?
Yeah, no,
That's
no,
not
you,
going to
you,
work.
you just can't. And I think that, and just you forget about the fact that when you're doing to go food, it's all of those disposable, containers that are now
That's
going into landfill.
costing.
It's just, and that those are not cheap. I mean, the ones that work, those are expensive. And
Yeah.
so now you're actually spending,
How much are you
and there could be
spending?
a lengthy argument. Well, you don't have to wash dishes, but the bottom line is 25% occupancy.
Mm-mm.
Restaurants close if they have 25% occupancy. I mean, if you opened a restaurant
Oh,
and you were only feeding 25% of your
it's
capacity every
fearful to
day,
think about
you would close.
what's
Yeah.
coming ahead of us. Because you
And
think about all these restaurants, but then it's all a domino effect. So I have all these restaurants that are going to probably close because they can't sustain themselves. Then you've got all the food suppliers that were supplying them with that food. So what happens to all of them? So it's a chain reaction,
yeah, I mean, and that's why I've
huge
said
chain
before,
reaction.
it's almost tectonic in that, all of these vendors. I mean, I have a couple meat vendors that I use specifically, that have gone to home delivery for households because otherwise they'd be closed. I
Oh,
talked to a
oh,
guy yesterday. I'm doing this Passover. I keep saying that. I'm doing this Rosh Hashanah pop-up thing. I'm looking to buy briskets, and I talked to my guy yesterday. And briskets in the old days, if you went to the store and got a full brisket, they were about 8 to 10, 11 pounds.
uh
He's
huh.
like, well, now because they're not, slaughtering as much beef, they're 15 to 18 pounds. And so
Oh,
it's just, all of that stuff is just, slowly but surely, all of the jobs that are attached to providing you even a supermarket meal that you go buy
mm-hmm.
yourself. It's a huge part of the economy, all of which are poorly served as a workforce.
Oh, it's just so sad. Even like so, you've been following me, and I went across the country, and I got to stop at a lot of places, and I saw a lot of things that were closed, restaurants that were not open, just places were closed. Even the Grand Canyon, it was closed. Everything was closed except you could walk around, and there weren't many people there. And then when I got to the airport in Las Vegas, nothing was open. Only one coffee shop. I get to San Francisco, and this is sad. Just shops closed, and it's a Friday and a holiday. I get to Newark, same situation. Friday night, 6 o'clock at night, 7. The shops are closed, Ed. The restaurants are closed. It's scary.
Yeah. No,
It's,
and it isn't, I mean, and if you look back, I mean, because I've been, I knew that we were going to have this chat today, and I've just been thinking about stuff. I've been fortunate to be on a couple panels about, restaurant work, and it's just, I just don't think that, people can conceive about almost every other business. If you think about it, besides the service business, has either never stopped, like mechanics really never closed, construction workers, I know contractors this is their best season ever.
they slowed down a little bit in the height of it, but then they continue. They still are doing construction. They still have to service cars. But there's at the same time, I also heard a lot of people can't afford their cars anymore because they don't have their jobs, so they have to give away to get back their cars.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's another thing that I've noticed. The division. I think that there's a piece of this where it's just a division of wealth that, regular hardworking, day-to-day people got beaten down even further, whereas executives, people that are immediately able to shift to working from home, and certain things like, of course, Amazon and companies that thrive, right? Jeff Bezos
tremendously.
Wealth went up like by $40 billion in 20 minutes or something. I mean, and so, it's ironic that on one half you see people buying new cars, and that's the stuff you see. The stuff you don't see is the people losing their cars, the people who haven't had a job or a meal, since March 20th.
There are people that are still out there on unemployment. Now, there's like 30 some million people, it may even be more, that are unemployment. There are many of those people, I'm talking millions of people, that still have not even received their first check.
Right.
They're still struggling for food. Right. How are they going to pay the rent? How are they going to take care of their families? They can't. The government, the situation is just, it's in poor situation. And there's so many people struggling for food, and that's one of the things that we're going to talk about with you too. I know that you are involved in a lot of this too. It's sad. You want to help people, but at the same time, like we've lost our businesses, but we need to help other people. One of the reasons I do this is I try to help businesses get their information out there so that those people can find that source, help you, help others. That's what it's about. It is. And you earlier were talking about one time, you said something about the household grassroots movement. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I was thinking about it again, and it's the actual cottage industry. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like literally. Every household, certainly mine, and friends of ours,
mine too,
is suddenly on its own unique individual micro economy. Whether you're thinking about toilet paper mask, because I can never work that out. There's the double roll with the same, and so, but just the day to day. How am I going to go hunt and gather? Am I going to really bother going in Giant when it's just a complete?
Oh, I know.
Part of S show in there. Do I try to order food, but I can't even get, or in some cases, your home your utilities bill has actually gone up.
Right.
You're
because
bringing
you're home
in
all the time.
30 to 40% less money,
and you're spending more,
and you're hungry. I mean, the honeymoon. And again, it's a poor way to put it, but it's over. All of the rent, abatements. That's done.
That's
it's certainly
done.
going to be done by October and November, and then realtors will clean up because they'll be going in and reselling all of these defaulted on homes. And
but where are the people going to go? That they're getting out. There's nowhere for them to go. What do they do?
They
all
don't.
Their possessions, all their apartments, their townhomes, whatever they're renting, they're going to come in there and kick them out. Then what? Everybody's going to be living on the, like, did you, I guess you've seen Philly. They're all living out there. They're living on
Well,
the streets. They're living
you
in the
know,
museum. They're living
that's
everywhere.
that's that's a day to day. The museum encampment is, they're supposed to be gone, I believe, by the newest date is Tuesday the 9th. And I think that after a while, because they've been served with eviction notices twice before there, and then have gotten some sense of
It's a
reprieve.
mess
But
everywhere.
yeah. So that's it's like everyone has sort of gone to the front lines and almost exhausted in some extent the facilities at their disposal, and the again, there are, I'm sure, better words, but the patience of the city. The city allowed them, for lack of a better term, again, to stay and encamp on the parkway. But now that honeymoon is over.
No,
And
honeymoon's
where are
over
those
for
people going to go?
everywhere.
There's
Everywhere you
150
go.
people there, right there.
Yeah.
150 people just in that encampment
just
alone.
in that encampment. And I've seen people, like, I've seen people just walk on the streets with bags. They are living on the streets. They have nowhere to go. They're getting kicked out of their places. It's done. But you can't have 50,000 people kicked out of their homes, or 100,000 people living on. Yeah, they're going to live on the streets. Okay, all right. You have no bathrooms and no showers, and there's nothing to do. This can't happen. This can't happen.
No, and I think that it's small. I mean, if you actually had the time to walk around San Francisco while you were there, it's even worse.
Oh, it's
there.
worse there.
San Francisco proper is one big gated community, right? And so
really
the financial
bad.
district, which is massive all along Market and down by the Embarcadero, it's a ghost town.
Yes, it
and
is.
So and same thing, specifically in the Bay Area, none of those people are coming back to work.
No, you're right.
Right. And so, it's just everywhere. And the people that are getting lost in the shuffle, because all of those technology people, everybody who used to schlep into the Salesforce tower, they're still making high 6-7 figure salaries. And their lives have become easier because some poor guy who lost his job as a mechanic is now bringing them food from the Burger King around the corner for $7 an hour.
Oh, yeah. I will see a lot of, like, so I was a driver. I was driving 20,000 miles a month. I drove vehicles all over the country, everything. I mean, I hauled cars and things and a puppy just recently, but it's that puppy, that Duke, let me tell you, what a great puppy. But anyway, so I've seen the drivers, a lot of them that contacted me, they have no work, there's nothing out there, but they've reverted to delivering food. And I'm talking like Burger King, like they'll do the, what is it, the DoorDash?
Literally. Yeah,
DoorDash,
exactly.
Grubhub, all these driving. I'm like, but people are getting food at home because they don't want to go out, and they're going to do Instacart and Shipped, all these delivery services. They're paying, but they're not tipping much, but they're paying for them to deliver. That's the only thing they've got. But they're make $100 a day, if that.
You know who makes money?
Gas are you spending?
You know who makes money on those platforms? The platform.
Well, the platform does.
And if you look at the bottom line of DoorDash or Instacart, any of those, it's all San Francisco Bay Area addresses.
Oh, yeah. Like Uber,
and so if you
Lyft, all that stuff. And even though, but those companies are doing terrible. They're not even, those people that were doing the Uber and Lyft are not working because there's nobody going anywhere.
Right.
So they're not making the money they had been. So it's a vicious cycle out there.
Yeah, it is. I mean, and again, it just gets deeper and deeper and deeper. And ideally, the things that will make it, help alleviate some of the, pressures that this is bringing is slowly, as things ease up, and these, grassroots movements that are, taking a village. And and engaging people and redefining how people dine out and the reasons people dine out and where people give their business to dine out, and I think that's a major issue.
I think so. And we're starting to see that a little here in Bucks County. I know with the school system that's starting. I know that the Bucks County, some of the neighborhoods, we're talking about having pods. They're actually coming together as a small community, like each area, and having these pods where their kids could study and but they're not. But now they're all going to stay home because that's what Bucks County School District's doing. They have them not going back to classes. And
I worked at a day camp, and they did that pod structure, and it worked. About
Small
600 kids
classes.
a day. Small groups of kids. It was all outdoors.
Yeah,
That's I think a key, which schools can't do that.
they can't do
And
that.
the pods didn't interact with each other. And if God forbid somebody got sick, that entire pod would not be able to come
Right.
back. And nobody got sick, and thank God, and everybody was well, and
The
it was
pod, I
that
think, is a
summer. Yeah.
good idea. I think I like that idea that works for now. But they were just talking about on the news about Temple. I guess the college kids were getting sick. All of a sudden, they're getting these groups getting together, small groups, and starting to spread it. And so we've got to figure out this whole school system, because now you've got kids that are going to be home again, and the
Right.
parents, you got to be home.
Parents,
And a
grandparents.
lot of
Yeah.
the parents are going to be home because they have to work from home anyway. But some that did actually go back, now what do? They can't. They got to be home because their kids are still going to be home, and who knows how long it's just going to be. Like, is it going to go into the fall? Is it going to go to the winter? How much
It's going to
longer?
go until there's some sort of a vaccine, because those kids that are whose parents are still working, some of those parents are cashiers at said giant supermarket, and you know
Mm-hmm.
what, they're going to work.
Yeah,
It comes
they
down
have to go
to
to work.
a personal question of, like, look, am I going to feed my kid, or I gotta, I'll go to work, I'll wear a mask, I'll be careful, I won't be, I mean, you're these moral questions that are hitting, again, these little individual household economies. These are important, big decisions, and I think that a lot of them are going to go back to work regardless. I don't think you're going to see a stop until there's a viable vaccine
Mm-hmm.
that you can get a flu shot or a COVID shot once every year, and that's a while,
That's so
in the
wild
making,
yet.
for
Well,
sure.
the one
I mean,
guy that I interviewed, he's a participant. He actually is one of the 30,000 people that got the vaccine. So I don't know if you listened to that show, but he actually got the shot, and he goes back in like, I guess, a few days to get the second one. So he says they're at a race. The companies are in a race to get that vaccine. Who's the winner? Who's going to make the most money out of this? And he says it probably will be till next year until they actually have it. It's not going to be in a month. It's not going to be in 2 months. You're talking probably spring. Do they have something that's safe? Are you still there?
yes, can
Oh,
you not
there.
hear me?
Oh, there you are. Yeah, I lost you
Yeah.
for a second.
Okay, yeah, I mean, in limited amounts, but there'll still be control groups. You know what I mean? There's not going to be like, you can go to Rite Aid, you can go to CVS, you can go anywhere and get a flu shot.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to see a COVID vaccine like that for years.
Yeah, it's going to be a
Years.
long time yet.
Because
Sure.
the way the country is these days, that first company, they're going to charge. It is going to be the price of liquid gold, and
No,
so
sure.
without some sort of government funding and an administration that ideally will cooperate with the dispersal of that, that there may be a vaccine in, by 2021, but who's getting it? It's the people that have been cleaning up since day one.
Right. It's not going to be you and I. It's not going to be
You
anybody.
know, it's
It's
not.
a different group
Yeah,
that's going to be getting that. Right.
probably, yeah.
That's right.
So,
That's right.
you know,
Oh my gosh, Ed. So what are you doing yourself? How are you getting by all this? How are you managing this crisis? Because you're not working like you were.
no,
So what are you doing to get by, to get through this? And you're a
and
chef. You
I
make
am.
food. You're a wonderful person. You got a fantastic LinkedIn profile. It's a very excellent resume of everything you've done. High end. And now it's like you're going through this pandemic like this. What are you doing?
Well, the first thing you do is panic.
It's like, yeah, we
And then
panicked.
sit in the basement and think, oh man, I'm not telling my wife that, and so and then suddenly you find a place where you start making internal and familial and household compromises, and you realize, and you have to really take a look at the fact that I mean, I did okay, what I mean, I was able to collect unemployment,
Mm-hmm.
as anybody should. I've worked a job where you paid into unemployment for 30 years,
Yeah.
and so Um, but there's something to be said for just getting up and, going online and looking for a job and collecting a check, which is not any, there's nothing good about that. That
There's
just sucks the
nothing.
life out of you.
No,
I mean,
it's
a job
terrible.
gives you a reason to wake up. And
I
so,
I've been going through it too. I mean, I get the unemployment, but it's not the same. I want to go work. I want to go do
yeah,
something. I don't want to sit there. All right, yeah, I'll go and fill out my stuff, and yeah, I'm getting my unemployment, but I need to have work.
yeah, the commute down the hallway is not something I enjoy. You know what I mean? And
No.
so, um, I looked into early on in March. Actually, we had been back from Israel for about a week. It was obvious that I certainly wasn't going to get a job anytime soon. And I continued to try, but after a while, it wasn't happening. And I noticed this. So, World Central Kitchen is a charity run by Chef Jose Andres, and he first came to prominence in World Central Kitchen. Category, so to speak, is during the hurricane in Puerto Rico. And Jose Andres went in and he set up a kitchen and he fed thousands and thousands of people. It has since grown exponentially. And he goes, any hurricane or disaster that you can think of in
Wow.
recent times, if you go to that and type in World Central Kitchen, he's there. He's in Beirut right now. And he's also in California feeding wildfire people. And so they
Oh
were
my
doing something
gosh, he's
in
doing all that.
Philadelphia. I mean, if you go on worldcentralkitchen.com, it's amazing. So he was paired up with Ben and Christina from a restaurant called South Philly Barbacoa in Philadelphia, and they were talking about what they were doing. And I reached out to them. I said, you know what, I'd love to do that. And sure enough, they needed people to go do it. I went and did it. 215 meals a day
Oh
to
my.
different, the Domestic Workers Alliance, a local church, some union workers, people that were out of work, and just everything, the atmosphere of within which I was doing it, the fact that you're taking care of these people, the fact that I can now have a reason to get up in the
Oh, you're
morning and
amazing,
do work
Ed.
that I enjoy.
That's
um,
fantastic.
and it was like, you kind of, your troubles were like, yeah, you think I got problems. You know what I mean? In the world of the blind,
Oh,
the
there's so
one-eyed
many
man is
people.
king. and
You
and,
are
and
helping
so
so many people that are having worse problems than you, than me. You know, you're helping feed people. You're helping so many people out there.
And I think,
Wow.
but I think what's important is, the people that, I mean, this is relatively easy for me. I just got to get in there and do what I do best. But the people like Ben and Christina and the 215 People's Alliance and People's Kitchen, these people are working, 24/7 trying to reinvent, the food, ecosystem. I mean, people always talk about ethical dining and going and getting, that steer that was raised humanely and talked to every
Hmm.
day, and the plant that, the chickens that got to roam, and but then the person that's actually processing that meat or that chicken or those organic produce, they can't even pay their own rent. Then is it really sustainable? Is it
No.
really ethical? I mean, is it really humane? And
Hmm.
so, what they're trying to do is reestablish a more cooperative program where the communities, like you said, people were talking about communities and, getting on board and maybe even opening a cooperative, food service system, making it, where every neighborhood, I mean, you hear these stories all the time where these, harsh neighborhoods have no, people call it food deserts, but
No.
people are saying it
No.
should be called food apartheid, because that's really what it is. It's, the inability to get decent food because of, race, social
Hmm.
structure, economic, the neighborhoods. And so, I think that whole movement, which it's become, is, the people in charge of those movements making that happen. It's something that, you really should consider when next time you go out to eat.
Oh, absolutely. I'm so happy that you're telling everybody this because there's a lot of people that they're not aware of it. People don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah. mean, there's the generic facts of, the percentage of, undocumented immigrant workers that, and people sort of, they kind of let that slide and, oh, well, that's what they're, what do they expect? All of that. And, that's something else that Ben and Christina are doing. They're huge advocates for, undocumented immigrant workers. And because, lots of those people pay taxes regardless, and they never see a tax return because they can't.
They can't.
But it's those people that are, making, your meal possible, again, from, the very beginning to the very end.
That's
and
incredible.
I think that it's important that, the only person that makes a ton of money in that whole process in a full service restaurant is the waitress, right? Waiters and waitresses, servers these days. They're the ones that are cleaning up. I mean, I worked in high-end restaurants where the servers were bringing in 6 figures a year and working half the amount of time that I worked.
That's
not
crazy.
I was barely making 5 figures a year. And so it's just, you have to really think about it. And even those few restaurants, Danny Meyer's company in New York, they eliminated tipping. They just reinstituted it because that's what people are used to. And that's the mentality that people have. Yeah. Because if they take care of their server, then their dining experience will be great. Who cares about the guy putting the food on the plate?
Over in Europe, they don't do that. They don't have the tips, don't exist over there. Here it does. They're trying to eliminate it here, but
well, they tried, but the problem is that you still have to pay people, and so the actual check averages went up by 20%, and people just didn't like that because they felt, well, what if the service stinks? It's
interesting.
The food business is definitely needs to have some real revolutionary change.
Yes, it does.
And people need to, just give it another second's thought when you go to a certain place and, think about it. Everybody's a huge fan of Wawa, and Wawa's great. I think I was never impressed. It's just a convenience store.
It's a convenience store, yeah.
Well, but it's local. It is not local. Wawa's the furthest thing from local. That's 7-Eleven down the street where the older, immigrant person behind the register, that's local. That guy's your neighbor.
That's
that
the
guy
guy
owns
that's,
that
yes.
business.
Yeah, that's local. Wawa's not.
You're right. Franchisees are local. Wawa is owned by a massive company in suburban Pennsylvania, and they're putting mom and pop delis out of business. That should be their slogan. Putting mom and pop businesses out of work.
But nobody
for the
knows
past
that.
30 years.
No. You can't. You're never going to convince people of that. It's the same thing with the Walmart situation. They put out the mom. Yeah, they put out the mom and pop shops.
I posted something at some point because a friend of mine loved this gobbler sandwich, and I'm like, so you're, thrilled about a sandwich sitting by the cash register at a convenience, and you would have thought I posted about gun control. I mean, it was like, whoa. And it's just, but people don't think.
No, they don't think.
Just because it's a Pennsylvania company doesn't make it local.
No, I understand.
Because it's a New York company doesn't make it local. Yeah.
I completely understand it because you got to realize I come from a farm agricultural background. We raised our own food. We had 18,000 chickens. We had a 7-acre garden. So we raised all our food. We never went to the store. We never went out to eat. We never had these shops. So, when I got introduced to Wawa, I'm like, Wawa? What's Wawa? Yeah. Or the food's great. I'm like, it's processed. And it's still not, it's not good for you. None of that stuff is good for you.
No.
You have to think healthy. And people don't think healthy. This is when convenience.
Exactly. And, and it's just, there are so many, right now, right today, Ben and Christina, again, I talk about them a lot, but I've been fortunate to sort of be part of conversations that they're part of, and they're part of the driving force along with, people in Detroit and actually many people in the Bay Area that are trying to put together a new sustainable ethical dining experience where people are taken care of. And today they got the entire stretch of 9th Street in the Italian Market where their restaurant is, along with 4 or 5 other restaurants on that block, closed. The block is closed, so they can put tables out on the street and people can come and have lunch or dinner. They've been doing it every weekend.
Oh, that's great.
Christina is sitting there filling out the no parking signs and hanging them up herself because the city's not going to do it. And so that that's the kind of thing. And well, I don't know if I love that kind of food. Well, you should go try it, because not only are you going to have a great meal, but you're going to support an ecosystem that has to be supported in a new way.
Oh, this is great information. I can't wait to put all this information out there on all social media so people can see that. And I will actually promo this too. So it means I'm going to promo it and it's going to hit. I can put it out to like 30, 50,000 or more people.
Awesome.
So that's what, because this is this is something for helping others in a great way. What you do,
Yeah, I mean,
what
it's
she's
important.
doing, it's very important,
And it's
especially
easy
for
to
everybody.
do. It's so easy to do. I mean, there's tons of parking down there. Park
Yeah.
by Giordano's Produce. Walk down the street. There's like 4 or 5 different options just
Okay.
for Latino food, Thai food. I mean, and you're taking care of people that need that need income. They're not just there because yeah,
Wow.
sure, why not? I got nothing else to do. I might as
They
well go
need
make a
it.
few bucks. It's shit, I hope I can eat today. Let me go to
Well,
work.
as long as I have all that information, those links, make sure you
Yeah,
have
yeah, yeah.
all that
Absolutely.
to me. I will get that in everything, and then it's going to go out on every platform, and then I will promo that, it goes from a promo from Instagram to Facebook, and then it gets into Twitter, then it gets into YouTube, it gets in everywhere, so
And then
people can
also my
find it.
my, my Rosh Hashanah, pop up, which
Yeah,
I'm going to be benefiting that too.
make
So
sure that's in there too. Yeah, just so all the listeners know, those links will be provided that you can connect. You can connect with you directly, or they can connect. Everything will be there, just like it
yeah,
should be.
okay.
That's fantastic. Oh my gosh, it's such a sad time that we're all going through such problems. I'm really happy that we were able to connect like this.
Yeah, I mean, me too. I mean, I
And it's
think
all
that you don't
because
hear it
of
enough.
Claudia.
It is because
Because
of
of
Claudia.
Claudia.
Yeah,
And if I didn't, I've known her for years. And then she's like, Martha, I have this person I really need you to talk to. His
she
name is
picked out she,
Eddie.
she picked out my wife's wedding dress, and she did a fine job, if I may say so myself.
Oh, well, I'll have to tell her to make sure she gets a hold of this podcast and she can send it out to all her friends too. And she
So can
will.
we just talk about what I'm doing real
Oh,
fast?
yeah. You got it. It's your show. You tell me.
So I am doing what I'm calling a Rosh Hashanah pop-up for the upcoming Jewish New Year. It's going to be a traditional menu: matzo ball soup, some schmaltz roasted brisket, pomegranate chicken.
Mm.
It's all on my Instagram, my Facebook page, and my website, which is Chez Eddie, which is spelled Chez Eddie, which is spelled Chezeddie. And some of the profits from that are going to be going into the People's Kitchen 215 People's Alliance to help with food insecurity. And I'm going to be doing these little pop-ups. I call them pop-ups, even though I'm just going to do them out of my home kitchen,
Mm-hmm.
and doing delivery on Thursday and delivery on Friday, the actual day of Rosh Hashanah, and then pick up on Thursday.
Oh, wonderful.
Of different things. And I just think that, giving back, helping me feed my household,
Yes.
as well as, helping me to help others. And it's, and there's going to be links as well for those donations. It's, what that little bit will do for everybody concerned. You get great food at a reasonable price. You don't have
Oh.
to go and find the brisket and find everything else. I'll just bring it to you.
Oh,
And so
it's just wonderful. I'm going to share this with all. See, I had 700 clients. So what I'll do is I also want to make sure that this information also gets out to them because of what you're doing. It's really important that they are, because I have a high-end Jewish clientele.
Okay.
And I would love to make sure that they get that information.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah, and that's why I said it's all about networking, connecting with people. Oh, that's fantastic what you're doing. No idea. You're helping so many people, Ed.
Including myself. You know what I mean? Because
You
I
are.
think that, I think it's important to just, find a purpose,
Yeah, you
whatever that
do.
purpose is. And, because otherwise, just sitting in the house waiting for the world to reopen.
It could be
I
a
mean,
long time before that
my mantra
happens.
of "this can't be the new normal" just
No.
wore itself out like 2 months ago. And part of the reason I had that ability to not say that every day is I created a new normal, because the new normal that was sort of propagating without my input was just bringing me down a rabbit hole.
Yeah, you didn't want to do that. Don't go down the bad rabbit hole. Don't get
No.
depressed. Don't it can happen, and it's happening to a lot of people. It could have happened. It could have happened to me because I'm like, what am I gonna do? How can I help? What am I supposed to do? I'm a driver.
Right.
And here I am doing a podcast and doing all this social media, and I'm editing, I'm publishing, I'm doing voiceovers. I'm doing a ton of stuff just to help other businesses as much as I can. And it's helping me. So people are like,
And it's
they
helping
ask,
me.
yeah,
So
it's helping
thank
you.
you.
So
Yeah.
thank
Thank
you.
you very much.
Thank you to
And now
everything.
that I see Britt around town, I follow her around every.
Oh,
I
everybody's
have to go to all
following
these
Britt.
candy shops now. I'm gaining 20 pounds. Just
Oh, I
looking at
know.
that.
She makes you go to her. I have to tell her to listen to this because like, yeah, Brett, you're making me hungry. You make me want to go shop. But
Yeah.
she's a great girl, and
But that's exactly what she's supposed to do.
She was a
She's doing
great
the right
she
thing.
was a great podcast, and her YouTube podcast is done. It's got the most views. I mean, it takes time to get your YouTube out there to get seen by people subscribing, but she got a lot of hits on that, and so did her podcast. So
yeah, I have a fried chicken video on YouTube too, which we'll have to post. So.
Oh, we'll have to get that. Well, you know what? We'll put your YouTube. We'll have to put your YouTube links in. Everything that you've got, we just plug it right in, and it'll be in my YouTube. And the Anchor FM series is which I started out on because that's the way I got started. And I plugged that information into the Anchor one, and then it goes from there to all the other platforms. Okay. So we want that information in there so that they can see it. And we'll make sure that's going to happen. Okay.
And hopefully, we'll get a link to this podcast, and then my friends will listen to it.
Yes, and once this is all edited
I have
and
a lot of friends in Bucks County.
I know you do. So once it's out, once it's finished, and it will be once I get to it today. What time is it? 3:41. So it'll be edited and everything should be done. It'll get done tonight, and I'll make it go up tomorrow. And it takes about 30 minutes for it to become active on all the podcasts on all the platforms. And then I'll send you the link once it's done. You can send it out to everybody. Make sure it goes on your Facebook. You can get it on your Instagram. You'll get it out everywhere. And if you have any trouble getting it onto your Instagram for some reason, just let me know. I can help you.
Of course. Okay.
All right. You're fantastic. You're the best. You're the best.
No, you are.
I just want to come eat your food. You make me hungry the way you're making all this food. It's like, oh my gosh.
Well, if I'm out in the neighborhood with brisket and kasha, I'll drop some off.
Your wife must be in heaven.
In heaven, or depending, yeah. Sometimes. What? I have to clean all those dishes? Like, that's the deal. Yeah.
Oh, that's the deal. Oh my gosh, that is a deal, though. I wouldn't mind. I'd be okay with it. Well, Ed, I want you to have a fantastic weekend, and keep doing what you're doing. You're doing such a great job out there.
Martha, thank you so much.
You're welcome, and we will talk. Again, I'm going to do a follow-up with you and say like 30 days, 45 days.
Count on it.
Okay?
I would love it.
All right. You take care of yourself. Okay.
You too.
Take care.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye. Okay, you Bucks County Bytes listeners, you just heard Ed, and Ed is doing a fantastic job out there for everybody. We're going to provide all those links for everyone so that you can help Ed, so you can help others. Okay, I want you to make sure you just spread the word. Send it to your friends. Share. That's all I can say. It's going to be on all those media, all those platforms. Get it out there. Help those people out there that need help. And there's tons of us, myself included, Ed. There's too many millions of people out of work. They need food. They need help. So we're going to finish up here. We're going to listen to Fill It Still by Portugal. It's one of Ed's other cool tunes that he loves. And we will talk to you soon. Remember, this podcast will be up and running. Be on the air tomorrow. Be live. Everybody have a great Labor Day weekend. Until next time, it's Bucks County Bytes. Over and out.